Hi everybody, welcome back to Modern Warfare 2019, and in this video I'm going to try and answer the question, how do you know where enemies are coming from? How do you know which direction enemies are coming from? And so, one of the main things you use is, of course, the mini-map in the top left-hand corner. And as you're watching this video, if you just look at the mini-map in the top left-hand corner and see what I'm doing, that will give you a clue of how you can use the mini-map even when there aren't any UAVs or you haven't got a personal radar up, or there are no advanced UAVs up there. So obviously when there's a UAV up there or a personal radar or an advanced UAV, you're going to get the little red dots that show you where the enemy are, unless of course the enemies are using the ghost perk, and then with the personal radar or a UAV they won't appear, so you've still got to be careful. However, the thing that you always see on the minimap are your friendlies. You always see where your teammates are. And so you always have to remember that most of the time your teammates are probably loosely together. They're closer together than they aren't, if you like. And that means that the enemy are going to be in the bit of the map where your teammates aren't there. And so the direction that the enemies are going to be coming from is the direction on the arc of the circle of the mini-map, or if it was a square the side of it, where your friendlies aren't. So if you look at the top left hand corner now, you'll see that I keep aiming, well, I aim towards the arcade. There's no enemies in that direction, so chances are that's the direction that they're going to be coming from. And this is a super important concept, and one that is very, very powerful and often underutilised by most players. We tend to think, well, if there's no UAV, if there's no personal radar, I won't be able to tell where the enemies are coming from using the minimap. But as long as they haven't got a counter UAV up where you can't see your minimap at all, you can see, you have a really good idea where the enemies are coming from an awful lot of the time simply using that technique. The other really good technique you can use, which I think is new for Modern Warfare, are the little red dots on the compass. And they're showing you their sound cues, where there's been some fire, where there's been some shooting, enemy shooting is. And so that gives you another really good idea that, well, it tells you exactly if the enemies are in that direction. Roughly it kind of tells you how far away they are, because depends on the size of the blob. But again, that's the other tool that you can use, and as long as they're not using, and I think this is really the only time where suppressors are good in the game, as long as they're not using a suppressor, they'll appear on there, and that gives you again a really good arc of where the enemies are going to be in the map as a whole, simply by looking at the compass, and you can use that information to confirm what you're seeing on the mini-map as well. Another piece of information that is critical to knowing which direction the enemies are coming from is sound. And this is why whenever you're playing a first-person or third-person competitive shooter, you want to have your headphones on, you want to have them turned up reasonably loud, because you want to be able to hear the footsteps of where the enemy are coming from, so that you can react to that and get ready to shoot them as they're coming along. Or it may be that you can hear their gunfire as you're approaching a particular location coming around that way. When you're playing the objective game modes, such as Hardpoint, we've got here, and this applies for domination and headquarters and that sort of thing, you can also use the knowledge of who owns, in this case, the Hardpoint, as to where the enemies might be spawning as well. So with Hardpoint, generally your team will be spawning near the hard point if you've captured it, and the enemies will be spawning further away, but they'll be coming from that further distance and coming towards you. It's a little bit easier in domination, where say you've captured the A and the B flag, the enemy are going to be coming from the direction of the C flag. It's pretty obvious doing it kind of that way. But always bear in mind, with all of these indicators to where the enemy are coming from, it's just giving you a general idea, and you've got to be ready to react, because even with sound, someone could be running dead silence and be able to creep up on you. So use those other cues, use a combination of everything: the mini-map, the red blobs on the compass, sound, and who owns or who doesn't own the objectives as to where enemies are spawning from and where they're running towards you from. So there we go. Hopefully that's useful. Hopefully that's given you a little bit of an idea of how you can work out which direction enemies are coming from. And again, I'll kind of say it one last time. For me, it's use the minimap. The enemies will be coming from the direction that your teammates aren't on the minimap. Use the little red blobs, the little red dots on the compass. That will show you the firing. Listen out carefully for enemy footsteps and enemy fire. And then look at the objectives. Who owns the objectives, and where will the enemy be coming from if they do or don't own that particular objective. Anyway, that's enough from me. Hopefully you found that useful. If you have, hit that like button. If you want to see more of the same, press subscribe. Thank you very, very much, and I'll see you again soon.
Get ready, we're about to move. Friendly VTOL jet on station. Go, get to the next one. Allies push missile away. Enemies taking the hard point. Enemies okay. Friendly UAV online. Next hard point, let's go. Location secured. Enemy care package inbound. Stand down. We've had enough for one day.